And good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, wherever you are in podcast land. Brendan Cunningham, the EXP doctor himself, with me, Matt Paul. He can do it all. I can do almost all. But
I try.
we are here to talk to you, to give you the real story like we do every week. We've had a whole bunch of shows in the last couple of weeks. What kinds of things have we been talking about?
Yeah, so we've been talking. We had an appraiser on, Jim Knight, a couple episodes ago. Last week we had. We have on last week.
We had the Realtor of the Year for 2024.
Yes, Joel, our fearless leader, was on, and before that we had a lender on. So we've been stacking it up with good guests, and I hope you guys have been enjoying the show.
Yeah, and trying to give you the real behind the scenes kind of stuff, like what the appraiser really does, what the lender really does,
and how the difference between an appraisal and an inspection. And I
actually just
had that conversation.
Very different. Yeah, and we have those conversations on a regular basis, and we try to make it sound fresh every time.
Yep.
But we're going to talk about how it all fits together and how you can take advantage of the market right now. So what's going on?
Yes.
Just give us a recap of the market itself.
Yes. So what I've been experiencing in the market has been an uptick in the last couple of weeks, which typically around holidays, especially since we only have a handful of them in the summer, it tends to slow down a little bit, and that hasn't been the case for me. So where it was a bit slower in May and June for me personally than normal, now it's busier than it normally is.
And I've had a bunch of phone calls in the last week or two. Same kind of thing with, these people sort of like, it was like Groundhog's Day. They were coming out of the cave. Where you been? Is it safe? And they're starting to hear, well, the interest rates, listen, we can argue that freaking point all day long.
Yeah. And they're still fluctuating around right around the same
But they're
point.
still under 7 and likely to stay so. We think.
At this point.
And that's probably as good as it's going to get. No one's saying, oh yeah, it's going to go back to 2 or 3.
No,
nobody's saying.
Yeah,
and frankly, if that does happen, I'm not sure that's
a good thing.
Really, there's bad things that go with that. I mean, that would really drive prices up. You think they're up now? It would really drive prices
big time. Yep.
Yeah, we'd have the buyers would be like locusts.
Yes,
as they should, if that were to happen.
Absolutely.
So right now, it's sort of growing at a nice incremental pace.
But the inventory levels are a little bit less than last year. So there's pockets that are the micro markets that are really hot.
Microclimates.
And I have a couple properties coming up in Akron, New York, or in the town of Newstead, and all of my research is showing that is a buyer's market right now. So one of the few markets in the Western New York area that has actually switched from sellers to neutral to a buyer's market.
Yeah.
So
and then there's some other crazy things that are going on. We had bears in the city of Buffalo. My dog got skunked the other night. I had a deer on the corner of in South Buffalo on McKinley.
Wow.
It's a beautiful street. And the deer waves to me, and I wave to the deer, and it's like, come on, man, we're in the city.
Yeah.
We're run by animals here.
Yeah,
but
the signs of life.
The signs of life. Everyone's coming out of the woodwork. I felt bad because the deer did get hit. Luckily, it didn't get killed. It sort of pranced away. But then that's supposed to be in the city.
Yeah, no, it's not something you see very commonly.
So, you want to take advantage of the market. You want to buy a house. Step number 1.
As we've always said, it's never too late. If you're going to do it now.
Do it now.
The longer you wait, nobody can really anticipate what's going to happen.
Yep.
And all we know is that prices are going up pretty much every day. 2
times to plant a tree today and 20 years ago. 2 times to buy a house today and 20 years ago.
Yep.
I mean, that's what it is.
That's what we've been saying all along.
And my niece just bought a house in Vermont. She is ecstatic. Now, yes, did she have to pay $50,000 over the years? Yes, she's still ecstatic. She got herself a house. And now I bet you if she went to sell that house today, the next day, she'd probably get more money for it.
Wow.
Yeah. Right? Because that's just what it is. But yeah, step number 1, somebody says, what do?
Talk to a realtor.
Talk to a realtor. Talk to a local realtor.
Point you in all the right directions from there out.
Chances are you're going to sit down with your agent that you've selected or has been referred to, which is always a nice thing. And they're going to ask you a whole bunch of questions. You should have a whole bunch of questions too. It's kind of an exchange meeting.
Yep.
First of all, to discover or figure out if you want to work with that agent.
Exactly.
Yeah. Just because maybe you decide, I don't like guys with beards. Whatever it is.
Yeah.
Yep. Or you may say, yeah, I kind of like the way this person relates to me, and they've asked me some questions that I hadn't even thought about. And then at that point, they're going to go over some paperwork.
Yep.
Okay. Maybe it's electronic paperwork, but the rules of engagement haven't changed since August 17th last year. And before a real estate agent in this state and just about every other state can show you a house, they have to have some documentation that is signed by you that authorizes them to be your agent.
It's required.
It's required. They cannot show you a house without that document. The only other way you can see a house without an agent is how?
See, without an agent, you just go up and for sale by owner.
You could do that, okay. But if a house is actually on the market,
open houses.
Open house. Yeah, the only way you can do it. You can walk through the open house, but if the hours are posted from 11 to 1 and you show up 3 minutes late, you got to make an appointment with that agent. You got to go through the process.
Exactly.
Right? Because the open house is over. They can't just sneak you back in at that point.
No.
So understand that's a change. It's not necessarily a bad change, but it's a change because now the agent's required to talk about some things that they might not have spoken about before August 8th.
Exactly.
And one of the pieces of the puzzle is who they actually work for. Okay. Agency. They'll talk about agency. And then they're going to talk about compensation. Anyone can pay compensation to an agent. Anyone can pay it. Or anyone cannot pay it. But they just have to give you the option. Say, you want to pay it? Great. Most buyers will say, well, why the hell would I want to pay it? That's what I would ask.
Yeah.
We can still make it as a part of the transaction and have the seller pay it out of the proceeds, which is way 99% of the people are still doing it.
And that's how it was always done.
Always done that way. But we have to explain that to you.
Yep.
And in a little bit longer discussion.
Yes.
But other than that, we do that. And then the second thing that's probably going to happen is they're going to say, well, let me ask you, are you pre-approved?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
If you're not pre-approved, what do they do now?
Then we connect you with, I usually try to give out at least 3 different lenders. And then I always ask too, what's your relationship with your bank? If you have a good relationship with your bank and you would prefer to stay with them, then we can connect you with somebody that works at the bank. If not, I like to use brokers who search all products. I have a handful.
We prefer brokers because you have a wider range of choices.
Yep, a lot more options. Yep.
And it doesn't cost anything.
No, and if you need creative lending, that's where you'll have a little bit more options as well.
Yeah, and I like brokers too because if you go to ABC Bank, they have their products.
Yep, and that's all they're.
That's all they have. Yep. But what happens if they turn you down for some strange reason? Well, now you got to go to another bank, start the process over again, and I don't say it's a pain in the neck, but you got better things to do, especially on a holiday weekend.
Yes, and don't feel defeated if you do get turned down by your bank because there are other options.
There are other options. But here's the thing. If you go to a broker, if they put you with ABC Bank, because they can put you with that same bank.
Yep.
And then the bank's going to pay them. That's their comment. But if they put you there and they turn you down, you know what that broker does? He moves you to another lender.
Yep.
And maybe you do get a better deal. Maybe at that point you qualify. Yep. But you didn't have to go back and see him because he does all that legwork for you.
Exactly.
And you don't have to pay any fees up front. Well, you may have with that one bank. So it's just a smarter way to go.
Yep.
But whatever. Second thing that we're going to do is make sure that you're pre-approved with, what are the magical words? Good local lenders. We don't want any of these guys from out of Mongolia. I mean, Mongolia's a beautiful place, especially in the summer, I've heard. But we want to be able to talk to people. Well, we have to reach out with those 800 numbers. It makes us mental. It makes you mental.
Well, and here in Western New York, how many times have you had a lender from New York City? Still New York State, total different animal.
Different game.
From there, but I haven't had one of those loans close on time, and I've had a couple of them fall apart.
Yeah.
Where you had to get a local bank to come in and do a loan rescue.
Very different.
And so we, that you have the local lenders are going to know all the steps that need to be taken, all the different local, the certifications, all the.
I was just having a conversation with our admin, and she was talking about when she got her notary license, and when she was taking the course for the notary, they said, listen, we're not going to spend a lot of time talking about any of the stuff that goes on in New York City because we don't do that here. So you don't have to worry about that on the test. Sure enough, there's 6 questions about how they do things in New York City, and it's different.
Yes.
I mean, they do different things. So if you have an attorney in New York City who's the best criminal attorney in the world, now you got 2 counts against him because he's not local. Yep. He could be good, but he's not local and he's not a real estate attorney.
Exactly.
So we cannot stress that far enough. Good local lender, good local real estate attorney, everyone. We want you all be part of here.
Yeah, in the market that you're living.
Any market that you're in. It's sort of a common sense thing, but people miss that.
Yeah.
And
it's from my experience, it's usually previous relationships or referrals, right? Somebody had a good experience in their family and they're not living local, and they suggest them and they say, hey, I want to work with them. And, it's usually
the best part about that whole thing about good and local is we all speak the same language, and we all speak in shorthand, and where a good local attorney can cut right to the chase, the guy downstairs is going to have to read through 12 or 15 pages of contract to find out the answer.
Yeah, because that contract is way different that we use than they use.
Well, yeah, they
The Rochester's contract's 3 pages, or downstate.
Syracuse.
I did a couple deals in the Adirondacks, and it was a 3-page contract, whereas ours is.
There's one that's 2 pages. It's where's Warsaw? What's town?
Warsaw, outside of.
I know where it is. What county
is it? Wyoming?
Wyoming County.
Yes.
2 pages.
Yep.
Yeah. And they sell houses there. I don't know what the difference is, but it's goofy.
Yeah.
So we harp on that a lot because it's really you just say time, money, and aggravation like you cannot imagine.
Yes, exactly.
And everyone's happier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's nice when you meet the deadlines, because usually you're getting pretty excited about it. There's emotional attachment to it, and when you go over a week or 2 of closing, sometimes remember we talked about the movers.
Yeah. We're going to bring a mover in to see watch that guy's hair fall out. Yeah. But it's stressful, and some of the stress is self-inflicted. Some of the stress is because of you're dealing with people's lives. You're not. It's not just the house; it's the guy's memories, and he remembers picking up the wallpaper with his grandson, and all that. I mean, all that stuff filters into it.
Building a wall with his kid.
Building a wall with a kid. I can remember building the back bar in our house with my father. I was 5 years old in the lumber.
You still remember? See?
Oh, sure. Yeah. Well, the best part was because nobody drank in our house. We had this beautiful part. Nobody drank.
Okay.
But he used to like that. He always liked the idea of maybe entertaining.
Yeah. Well, it's a conversation piece.
I guess. And he would always say, my kids helped me build this bar.
Yep.
But yeah, we forget that. And there was a question I saw the other day, and the guy, he was a young guy in the real estate business. He had just started out, and he hadn't bought a house yet himself. And he says, a lot of my friends are telling me that this doesn't help me. It doesn't help my credibility. What do you think? And I said, well, here's the deal. A, you feel, and B, your customers feel that you're more credible if you've gone through the process.
Correct. Yep.
You as the individual feel so much different about it. Just, this is what happened. And then you can say, well, when I did this, I did this. Yep. And I think that every once in a while, we need to buy buildings or houses or whatever, just to go through the process again.
Yep.
Because we forget the stresses that are there.
Yeah.
We get stressed just like any other human being because we're human beings.
Yep.
And we start to, I think they're taking advantage. Yeah. We go through all these crazy tapes. And then
you can better relate,
It helps you you relate so much better. And you can say, when I bought this building, this situation happened, and
Yep.
But
then you can, and maybe there was a really creative situation that you were in that you got out of, and then you could apply what you did, and it helps you get through that deal.
Yeah, and the more deals we do, the more we can borrow from those experiences. I sold a house up in Tonawanda a couple of years ago. And Tonawanda is one of those. It's a wonderful town. I think it's one of the coolest markets in Western New York because it's close to everything in the stores, and you can really get around. Buildings a good lot and good inventory, and they have issues with their sewers.
Oh yeah,
the bubblers and this and that. I didn't even know what a bubbler was. So we have sewers and there's alligators
in their sewers and massive rats.
And you don't want to go down it. But I can remember this. The guy from the town comes out to check. He came out 3 times. 3 times, and the first time he says you need a different cat. Okay. And I said, can you show me a picture of the cat? He shows me and we go out and we get that exact thing. One. And he says, no, this is the wrong one. I said, here's the picture. He says, no, it's the wrong one.
No.
I said, okay, well then what do I do? He says, you need this. You see that? I said, okay, fine. So we get the next one. So he had to come out and check that one. But 3 times. Stop. You're killing me.
Yeah. Yep. The compliance guys are, they won't stop.
The compliance people, and there's a place for them. We understand, but they're also it's an aggravation.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
And Tonawanda, you're right, is one of the toughest ones
Tough.
around. Yep.
Yeah.
Amherst has gotten pretty tough as well.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then there's something else they may talk to you about. A warranty.
Oh yeah.
I love warranties. And here's a rule here, by the way. If we offer a warranty to one person, we have to offer it to everybody.
Mhm.
Now, you may say, well, what is it? How much does it cost? It costs money. I've always put a warranty on any personal properties I've ever sold. Always. There are no exceptions because I see the value of it. And so many times it's not only protected me, but it's gotten me more money.
Yeah.
A house with a warranty will sell for more money.
Yep.
Duh.
Yep.
I mean, that's a duh. And a house with a warranty will probably sell faster than a house that doesn't. And
That's a great peace of mind.
and it's wonderful peace of mind because when you close, this is how I explain the warranty period. So you don't have to do this. It runs you around $600-700, and you don't have to pay for it until it closes.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
But if any of the big ticket items, hot water heaters, furnaces go, this is what's not going to happen if you have this. I'm not going to get a call at 3 o'clock in the morning, and you're not going to get a call at 3:02. Right? Because some guy in wherever this is, Chicago, they're going to get the call on their 800 number, and then they're going to fix it. Then they're going to deal with it. Because you don't want to have you as the seller want to have peace of mind, and you don't pay for the thing unless the property closes.
Yep.
You know?
And the buyer can pay for it too.
The buyer can pay for it.
Like you said, if you offer it that as a as a package with the sale, that has never hurt a deal.
Never. Yeah. I always used to like to do the triple entente. I'd put my house on the market. I'd make sure everything was in ship shape. Then I'd get the house inspected. Mm-hmm. Anything that came up, I'd fix those things so that they wouldn't have to come up with the subsequent inspection that they were going to do. Yep. And then I put a warranty on it.
So and you really check all the boxes.
Check all the boxes.
So there's no unforeseen.
No unforeseen. And I mean, and the one deal I had, the person said, "Well, I'm going to offer you $10,000 less because your furnace is old. It had been serviced, and there was a warranty on it." Yeah. And he says, "Oh, never mind." Yeah. Yep. Just went away. So I figured that maybe 10 grand versus spending $600. At the time, I think it was like $450. But everything goes up.
Yes. So absolutely. And nowadays, the furnaces, the older furnaces, last a lot longer. So I would keep that service.
The hot water heaters don't last. No, they don't. But the other ones do.
Yep.
Yeah, one of the funniest things I can remember in the real estate business, I was doing like what they call a career night. I was talking about things that real estate agents do. Talked about warranties a little bit. And somebody in the audience said, "Wait a minute, let me get this straight. The house that I bought last year with the furnace blew, I could have had a warranty on that." I said, "Absolutely." He says, "Well, how come I didn't?" I said, stroking the beard. I said, "Did you buy the house from me?" He says, "No." I said, "See, we would have talked about it."
But if you didn't know about it, it's not that's too bad.
And
right?
they were pissed. Yeah. Well, it's $5 grand versus $600, exactly. And maybe the seller would have paid for it. And that was one of my favorite things is where I get if you're the buyer, many times I can get the seller to pay for it as an accommodation. Believe it or not, even in a fast and furious market like this, we can still do that if you have the king of negotiators.
You're the doctor.
Well, yeah, that's why you want us, because we can do things that other guys don't know how to do. Yep. Having said that, let's wrap it up.
Yeah.
What should we tell people?
Just like, follow, subscribe. Please tune in. Let us know if you have any questions you want us to address in the show.
If you want to get in the real estate business, be on our team, let us know. If you're looking to buy or sell in Western New York, you give us a buzz. But you know what? If you're looking to move cross country, we can help you with that too, through one of our wonderful team members in that state or place that you're going.
Thank you for tuning in.
You got it.